It was supposed to be just dinner, a quiet evening with the new couple next door. A few glasses of wine, some good conversation, maybe a board game or two before calling it a night. But the moment I noticed how their eyes lingered, not just on each other but on us, I sensed this wasn't simply about being friendly neighbors anymore. There was an electric tension in the air, a blend of curiosity and unspoken anticipation, hovering like a question no one dared to ask. Before I dive into what really unfolded that night, take a quick second to like this video and hit subscribe if you haven't already. It takes just a moment, supports the channel hugely, and trust me, you'll want to stick around till the end for the full story. I still remember the pop of the cork more vividly than the invitation itself. One minute, my husband and I were lounging at home in our pajamas, unwinding after a long day. The next, we were strolling across the driveway with a bottle of wine in hand, exchanging polite smiles, and pretending it was nothing more than a casual neighborhood get-together. But as we approached their door, watching the warm glow spilling out from inside, something felt oddly rehearsed, like we were stepping onto a set where the scene had already been carefully arranged just for us. Their house was the picture of perfection, straight out of a home decor magazine. Candles flickered softly on side tables, casting dancing shadows beside a half-set board game on the coffee table. The aroma of buttery herbs, rosemary and garlic, I think, wafted through the air, mingling with the gentle hum of ambient music playing in the background. Mark swung the door open first, his sleeves casually rolled up, flashing an easy, welcoming grin that seemed well-practiced. Laya appeared right behind him, looking effortlessly radiant in a flowing silk blouse that caught the light just right. Hosting came so naturally to her. As we handed over the wine, she waved it off with a warm laugh. "You really didn't have to bring anything," she said, though her gaze lingered on my husband a touch longer than her smile did on me. The atmosphere felt light at first, but there was an underlying charge, as if everyone had silently agreed to some unspoken set of rules. Dinner progressed quickly. Plates of roasted vegetables, tender chicken, and fresh bread passed around amid stories, laughter, and questions that started casual, but gradually probed deeper. Laya had this captivating way of locking eyes with you when she asked about our marriage, her tone playful yet edged with a sharpness that made you pause. Mark kept refilling my husband's glass, each pour deliberate and unhurried, his glances growing more intentional with every round. I found myself glancing at my reflection in their window, adjusting my hair not out of vanity, but to feel present in a space that seemed designed to draw attention. At one point, Laya leaned across the table to brush a stray crumb from my sleeve. Her touch was fleeting, but the lingering warmth it left behind stuck with me longer than it should have. Across from me, Mark observed the moment, then my subtle reaction, before offering a smile that hinted he'd noticed something intriguing. I tried redirecting the conversation to safer ground. Vacations we'd taken, work anecdotes, neighborhood gossip. But every burst of laughter carried a layered meaning, and every pause stretched just a beat too long, building an invisible pressure. When my husband chuckled at one of Laya's witty remarks, his laugh came out softer than usual, almost guarded, like he was holding back from revealing too much. Mark leaned in closer to me, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. "She's great at putting people at ease," he murmured. The way he phrased it left me wondering if it was praise or a subtle heads-up. I barely had a chance to respond before Laya returned from the kitchen, a deck of cards in her hand. She placed them on the table with a mischievous grin, that same knowing smile from earlier. "Let's make this interesting," she suggested, her eyes sparkling with excitement. And just like that, I realized the evening's agenda had shifted far beyond a simple meal. Laya shuffled the deck with the confidence of someone who'd done this ritual countless times, each card sliding smoothly against her fingers. The room had grown quieter without anyone acknowledging it. The music still played faintly, but the focus had narrowed to the soft rustle of the cards. "It's a question game," she explained, her voice smooth and inviting. "Draw a card, answer honestly, or take a sip if you pass." It sounded innocent enough, a fun icebreaker to keep the energy going. My husband nodded eagerly, already sporting a relaxed grin. Mark lounged back in his chair, tracing the rim of his glass with a finger, as if he anticipated exactly how the night might unfold. The early questions were light and breezy. Favorite movies from our teen years, the worst jobs we'd ever endured, those cringe-worthy childhood mishaps that still make you blush. We shared stories, laughed heartily, and sipped our drinks when things got too personal. But as the game progressed, the cards seemed to carry more weight, pulling us toward topics that didn't quite fit a polite dinner setting. Laya drew one and turned to me with a playful glint. "What's something you've wanted to say to someone here but haven't?" Her delivery was casual, but her eyes held a deeper curiosity. I hesitated, and she smiled as if she'd predicted my pause. My husband reached for his glass, buying time. Mark chimed in gently. "No pressure. You don't have to share if it's too much." The tension in the air thickened, like a string pulled taut. I opted for something neutral, a genuine compliment about how beautifully they'd decorated their home, but the group seemed to sense it was a dodge. The turns accelerated from there, the vibe growing looser and more uninhibited. We were all leaning in closer, our laughter blending in ways that blurred the lines of familiarity. Then Mark pulled a card, glanced at my husband, and read aloud, "What's one thing you've never told your spouse?" The question landed heavier than the others, shifting the mood instantly. Even Laya's smile faded for a split second. My husband stared at his glass, twirling it slowly, attempting a light laugh that came out strained. "That's easy," he said, though his voice betrayed a waver. "She knows everything about me." But I caught the brief shadow in his expression, the momentary hesitation that suggested otherwise. Laya leaned forward, her whisper cutting through the quiet. "Are you absolutely sure?" That simple probe silenced the room entirely. Mark observed him intently, as if this was the pivotal moment he'd been awaiting. The candles flickered erratically, and I felt an intangible shift. Something small yet profound, like a door creaking open that couldn't be fully closed again. When my husband finally met our eyes, his response wasn't what stunned me. It was the subtle, knowing smile Mark offered right afterward. In that instant, I knew the game had evolved into something far more revealing than we'd bargained for. For a heartbeat, silence enveloped us all. The atmosphere had thickened, tangible and heavy, even as the music drifted faintly from the speakers. My husband's glass hovered mid-air, his gaze locked on Mark, grappling with whether that smile held hidden meaning or was just a trick of the light. Laya shattered the quiet with forced cheer. "How about another round?" she proposed, gathering the cards in a swift, practiced motion, though her hands trembled ever so slightly this time. She poured more wine, the liquid catching the candlelight and glowing with an almost mesmerizing hue. Mark, still eyeing my husband, added, "The thrill of nights like this is discovering who's got hidden courage." His words had lost their playful edge, landing more like a gentle challenge amid the group. I took a sip to steady myself, feeling a flush of warmth. My husband offered a soft, unsure chuckle. "Guess bravery isn't my strong suit tonight." Laya's attention shifted to me. "Maybe it's yours then," she teased lightly, though the undertone carried weight. My heart raced a little faster. Mark reclined further, his faint smile suggesting he and Laya had shared some unspoken understanding. We transitioned to the living room, maintaining the pretense of casualness, more wine flowing, lights dimmed for a cozier feel, chairs pulled subtly closer. The fireplace crackled softly, casting long, wavering shadows across the polished hardwood floors. Every little noise seemed amplified. The soft swish of clothing as we shifted, the gentle clink of glasses on coasters, the way our laughter would start strong but taper off into pregnant pauses. My husband engaged Laya in quiet conversation, his tone measured and thoughtful. I was acutely aware of Mark beside me, close enough to sense his presence without glancing over. "You didn't seem fazed by any of that," he remarked softly. I turned to him. "By what exactly?" "The way they connected, or how you observed it all." He paused, reading my expression. "Or perhaps how it made you reflect." I started to respond, but he smiled as if he already grasped my thoughts. Across the room, Laya adjusted my husband's collar in a friendly gesture, her fingers lingering a moment longer than casual. It could have irked me, but instead, it stirred a complex emotion, curiosity mixed with introspection. Mark picked up on it. "It's fascinating, isn't it? How familiarity can spark unexpected questions about ourselves. I could have excused myself right then, but I stayed seated. The lights softened further, whether by dimmer switch or the evening's natural progression, I couldn't say. Laya pivoted toward us, her eyes catching the low light, and murmured, "Perhaps we should drop the act and embrace the curiosity." Those words reshaped the silence. Not awkward anymore, but filled with possibility. Glancing around, I noticed how our seating had subtly rearranged, drawing us all nearer without conscious effort. The fire had simmered to embers, yet no one stirred to stoke it. The music had long since ended, leaving only the quiet hum of the house. We remained gathered, physically close, but the dynamic had undeniably shifted. No one labeled it. Words weren't necessary. Laya rose first, gliding across the room with graceful poise, her hand trailing lightly along the couch back. She paused behind my husband, leaning down to whisper something inaudible. Whatever it was, he released a slow breath, setting his glass aside without meeting my eyes. Opposite them, Mark inched nearer, not abruptly, but enough to alter the room's energy. His hand rested lightly on my arm, right at the wrist, a gentle contact that invited rather than demanded. I didn't withdraw. Perhaps I should have considered it more, but in the moment, it felt like a natural progression. Mark's voice was hushed. "Everything all right?" I nodded instinctively. He leaned closer, his presence warm and reassuring, his thumb tracing subtle patterns on my hand as if gauging my comfort. I didn't halt him. The couch creaked faintly as I shifted toward him, prompting Laya to glance our way. Her smile was warm, approving, as if this unfolding connection was anticipated all along. Mark drew nearer still, his hand shifting to my shoulder. Not insistent, but supportive. I inhaled sharply, and he mirrored the rhythm. When I leaned in, he met me halfway. When I paused, he respected the space. Eventually, I bridged the gap, and his breath hitched softly. A quiet murmur echoed from across the room, not mine. I didn't glance over. Intuition sufficed. Our conversation deepened without words, a shared understanding building slowly, thoughtfully. It wasn't rushed. It was about exploring boundaries with care. My hand rested on his arm, feeling the steady warmth through his sleeve. Behind me, the fire's glow warmed my back. In front, Mark's presence was steady, his movements attuned to mine, never overstepping. At some point I rose, or perhaps he guided me gently. The details blur now, not from the wine but from the immersive flow of the evening. The sense of progression felt organic, like drifting into uncharted territory. He stood with me, hands at my sides, offering stability rather than control. My shoulder brushed something cool, a wall or window frame, as we continued our quiet exchange. Fabrics shifted subtly, his sleeve, my outfit, fingers adjusting with mutual consent. No interruptions came. A soft sound arose behind us, a sigh, perhaps a shared thought. I turned briefly and glimpsed them. Laya facing our direction, my husband engaged attentively, his focus on the moment yet aware of ours. He didn't intervene. Mark noticed my glance but remained composed. My breathing quickened, and I refocused on him. It transcended mere curiosity now. It was about mutual exploration without resistance. The room's ambiance layered sounds, a glass settling on wood, fabrics whispering, breath synchronizing across the space. We didn't fully rearrange our connections, but the distinctions softened, fostering a collective openness. Mark engaged more intently this time. I responded in kind, hands exploring contours through clothing. I sensed every nuance, his steady rhythm, subtle shifts, moments where choice lingered, and I chose to continue. My husband sighed softly from afar. I didn't pivot again. The harmony sufficed. It wasn't disarray, it was a harmonious unfolding. As the evening wound down, with the fire reduced to faint glows and breaths calming, we settled into a profound quiet, not discomfort or second-guessing, but a reflective peace after shared vulnerability. Come morning. The topic went unmentioned, in the kitchen over coffee, at the door with farewells, even as we crossed back home empty-handed yet enriched by silence. But a subtle shift had occurred, evident to all four of us. We still exchange waves and smiles across the driveway, Yet whenever their curtains stir, I can't help wondering if they're reminiscing too. Be real with me. If your neighbors extended an invitation like that, one that evolved into unexpected depths, would you have stayed to see it through? Or headed home early? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be checking them out. And before you click away, smash that like button, subscribe, and enable notifications to catch the next story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.